What if I told you that being good at money is not talent but training? Welcome to the Founder Mindset Episode 9, The Founder's Relationship with Money. I'm Maya, and here with me is Pranay Mahendrakar, serial founder and finance strategist who turned $1 million in losses into a $5 million runway. If you're new here, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming.
Thanks, Maya. Good question to start. I think many founders see money as magic, like you either have it or you don't. In my early days, I thought cash flow was destiny. Then I realized it's a muscle we can build, just like any other skill. You train your financial muscle by facing pain, not avoiding it.
So, when you say pain, do you mean budget cuts, investor rejections, or something else?
Yeah, see, pain is the unavoidable financial hit, like a sudden drop in revenue or an unplanned burn event. The story we add is suffering, the feeling that we are doomed or that we are not good enough to handle it.
What's your first step in separating pain from suffering?
First, notice the breath when you feel the shock. Then pause and ask yourself, is this just a financial hiccup or does my story say I can't move forward? The moment you answer no, you've turned pain into growth.
Interesting. Can you give us an example from your own journey?
Sure, in my first startup, we had a runway of 6 months and our key supplier doubled prices. Pain hit, burn rate jumped, suffering started talking, we'll never get back. Instead, I logged the pain, challenged the story, and drafted an action plan to cut costs by 30% in 2 weeks. That discipline became a habit.
How do founders who love luxury or binge spend maintain this muscle?
It's all about voluntary discomfort. I call it the money gym. Add one financial friction per week, a strict budget, a tough negotiation, or an unpaid pitch. The brain loves routine adversity.
Could you walk us through your money gym framework? The audience likes step by step.
Okay, so there are 4 steps. 1. Identify one financial discomfort you can add safely. 2. Commit to it every week for 30 days. 3. Document pain and story. 4. Review a survived list. At the end of each month, the survived list is evidence that your muscle grows.
If someone starts, what should their first discomfort be?
Cold shower of your budget, cut $5,000 from discretionary spend and stick to it. It's small but feels real. Once you survive that, the next step is harder negotiating salaries or investor terms.
How does this tie into funding rounds? Investors love risk averse founders, right?
Exactly. In my second round, I used the money gym principle. I set a personal rule only ask for what I could run on with no revenue. When an investor said they needed more runway, I countered that my plan would work with 2 months safety and proved it with cash flow models. The discipline in numbers made me credible.
What about the financial burn narrative founders often feel? How do you reframe that?
Turn into growth by mapping out a clear use of funds. Instead of saying this is going to burn money, say we are investing X in technology that will quadruple user acquisition next quarter. Seeing the downstream value reduces suffering.
Some listeners might think this sounds too hard. How do you keep it accessible?
Break it into micro tasks. For example, write a one page expense forecast, schedule a monthly review with your co founder, or create a money anxiety journal that tracks triggers and responses.
What's the biggest mistake you see founders make with money?
They treat finance like a separate department. I teach founders to be their own CFO for the first 9 months. Take ownership, ask questions, challenge numbers, and practice those uncomfortable conversations.
So, if you're reading this, what's the one thing you want us to try before we end?
Add one small financial discomfort today. Say no to a non essential subscription or delay a purchase until after your budget review. Write down why it felt painful and how you reacted. Log that as your first entry on your survived list.
I think that's a powerful move. Thanks for the clear, practical path. I'll add a cold financial shower tomorrow.
Glad to hear. Remember, every time you push through discomfort, it builds that muscle. By the time the market throws a big shock at you, you'll have the strength to not break, but bend, breathe, and keep moving forward.
Alright, so we're at the heart of it. You've shown us how to treat tough times like a workout. Now let's talk about the real hustle. Money.
Yeah, money is the most obvious kind of discomfort we face every day. It feels like a wall, but it's just a set of signals waiting for us to act.
You mentioned pain versus suffering earlier. How does that map onto finances?
Picture this, you get a sudden bill. Pain is the fact, the bill exists. Suffering is you saying, I'm not good at managing money, I'll never recover. Separate them by noticing the sensation, then telling your brain it's just data, not a verdict.
If that's the trick, what practical exercise can founders do weekly?
Use my 3 step money muscle. 1. Pick one discretionary spend to cut this week. 2. Record the emotional spike for 10 minutes after it happens. 3. Write a counter narrative. Why you deserve that money and how saving feeds your mission.
That sounds doable. What's an example from when you actually used it?
I once cut my gym membership because I wasn't seeing ROI in time. The immediate pain was a sweaty stomach, but the counter story was my health is an investment. Every dollar saved fuels product development. I loved that. And next month I could invest that saved sum into user acquisition.
Interesting. Let's pivot. Many founders say money anxiety stops them from taking risks. How do you reframe risk in financial terms?
Think of risk as a portfolio of small discomforts, not one big spike. The first step is diversification. Allocate a fixed percentage, say 5%, to experimental spend. The second is the 24-hour rule. Give yourself a day to assess if you are comfortable. If it's still pain, evaluate. If it's growth, proceed.
So you set a rule before feeling fear.
Exactly. You pre commit so that when the anxiety hits, you can see that it's just a sign of your strategy being tested.
What about founders who are deep in debt or burning cash? How do they build toughness without compromising survival?
That's where the 30-day trial comes in. Pick one core expense, say hosting, and try scaling it down for 30 days while keeping performance metrics constant. Measure churn, load times. If stability stays within thresholds, you've found a cushion to push further.
A practical experiment. Now I know we are talking mental muscle. You mentioned a survived list. How do you keep that list meaningful over time?
Keep it 3 tiered. 1. Micro successes, daily expenses you cut. 2. Medium wins, monthly budget adherence. 3. Macro victories, annual revenue milestones. Log each with a brief note on the emotional response. Revisit every quarter to see patterns.
That helps create visible progress. Switching gears, how does financial toughness intersect with product development cycles?
Use the build, measure, learn loop as your finance treadmill. For each sprint, allocate a micro budget for experimentation. If it fails, that's pain. If it passes, you learn to stretch resources. Over time, you train the muscle to lean in rather than pull back.
Got it? What about founders who are comfortable with money but lack the will to push through financial hardships?
The key is mental rehearsal. Before a tough decision, say raising an extra tranche of funding, you mentally rehearse. Visualize the numbers, anticipate the doubts, then picture the outcome. This turns the fear into familiarity.
Let's touch on investors now. How do you maintain toughness when investor expectations are high?
Treat investor calls like tough client interactions in martial arts. They hit hard. You separate their feedback, pain from your self worth story, and then you adjust tactics, not ego.
Nice metaphor. Quick question. Does financial toughness translate to team morale?
Yes, because when leaders demonstrate disciplined spending and intentional risk taking, they signal confidence. Teams then mirror that resilience in product focus.
That ties everything together. I'd like to give our listeners a quick exercise right now, like you gave them earlier.
Sure, over the next 7 days, pick one discretionary cost per day to eliminate log each day's emotional reaction and your counter narrative. At week's end, review the list. What did you learn?
Thanks for that. And just a quick reminder for anyone listening, subscribe if you're finding these tools useful, like the show, or share it with someone who needs this push.
Remember, every uncomfortable rep strengthens the muscle. When big financial storms come, you'll be ready to bend and keep moving.
Great point. So, before we wrap, could you give us a quick recap of what founders should remember?
First, pain is data, story is belief. Second, set small financial discomforts each week, record reactions. Third, diversify risk with the 5% rule and a 24-hour evaluation.
Perfect takeaways. Thanks so much for joining us, Pranay.
Glad to share.
If you liked this episode, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with a founder in your network who could use some tough love. Next week, we'll dive into the daily operating system that turns all of this theory into practice. Until then, stay resilient and keep building.